This opinion might get me in trouble, but finance people are the worst leaders of your business. The finance team should work for you, not tell you what to do. When you look at the most ideal situations, your business should be run by a sales guy or a product guy. Facebook, Amazon, those are both product led. If you look at most successful home services in that $1 million to $6 million range, those are sales led. But when you get your finance teams in the leadership position, they kind of run the whole business down into this state of neurosis. You get over your skis real quick. So welcome back to Forward Facing Business. This is the channel for businesses that are making 1 to 6 million EBITDA that want to grow up to $12 million. I'm your host, Chad Tabry. Let's dive into it. So as an ops guy, I interface with every part of your business. You can see I'm kind of the lower quadrant here. When you have sales guys, your go-to-market team, product, which is the team that delivers your service or works on your service or your product, your fulfillment side that's delivering it, and then your finance team, which should be covering things like accounts receivables, accountability, etc. So 3 main reasons that finance shouldn't lead your team, and then I'll kind of throw them a bone here and talk about what they do best. And this is important because I think a lot of owners get a little bit of success. They get into that 1 million, $1.5 to $2 million range, and then they're leaning a little bit too heavily on their finance teams, and they start to wonder how they miss sort of that magic dust or that magic spark that their business used to have. The first problem is dollars are a lagging indicator. And I know that that's counterintuitive because you're in the business to sell things, you're in the business to deliver product, and you want to start measuring your success by the $1 million mark or the $2 million mark. But the dollar bills come in well after you've fulfilled service. In fact, if you're going by general accepted accounting principles, you're not even sending these invoices until you fulfill the service, right? Think even smaller. If you pay attention to your Amazon orders, you don't get that bill. They don't swipe your credit card until the service gets delivered. So these dollar bills are lagging indicators. You should look, I've worked with lots of business owners to help them form their sort of quarterly business review to look back and see how well they did. But you can't start with this idea that if you're at $50 million, you're not doing the input side correctly. Do you know what I mean? The other problem with finance is they'll make decisions that make their job easier, but don't necessarily serve the market the best. I've seen this in $40 million segments when you start bringing on other distributors or some sort of subcontractor or partner. They might be sending you data back that's very difficult to track and account for, and then finance will step in and they'll like put their foot down. I've seen finance teams like throw veto cards, like they have this huge seat at the table and say, we're not doing that. Like we're not going to serve $40 million of the business because our accountants don't like the accounting side of it. Do you know what I mean? So finance wants a clean, easy job. They want everything to be black and white. They want everything, 1 plus 1 has to equal 2. And it does technically. I want to be very clear here. I'm not saying run your business off the rails or do things unethically. 1 plus 1 does have to equal 2. But in double entry accounting and in serving the market as you go to the market, there's a little area there where you're doing a lot of stuff and you don't catch up with it until a quarter or 2 quarters later when you've really figured out what was fulfilled, what you can recognize revenue for, etc. But if you just left it to your finance team, you would be doing like the most vanilla, plain Jane stuff stuck at whatever level essentially that you hired that finance person at. The other problem with finance, and I see this the most in the private equity world, is they will dig deeper and deeper into your data segmentation. And look, to be fair, I'm a data guy. I love data. So you should lean on data. But let's say you're fulfilling $40 million and there are 2 primary verticals, and we'll just call it general contractors and disaster recovery. Well, the problem in this PE world is you'll get these analysts that are on board in New York or whatever, and they'll start looking at that and say, okay, well, how much of that was insert 7 different submarkets? Or then how much of that submarket was affected by the cost of cherry blossoms in Washington, D.C.? Or can we correlate the data back from California into your Baton Rouge instances? You know what I mean? So what happens is you start spending your time as the ops group and the leaders like really chasing around all this data that's not necessarily driving you to be more successful, or that's not necessarily driving you toward the things that made you successful in the first place. And I want to be very clear, the things that made you successful in the first place was your ability to drum up business and go close deals. Does that make sense? It was your ability to create opportunities and then drive them to that closed won sales status. So what is finance good at? Let's do them a little bit. One, finance is really good at being accountants. I know that sounds obviously ridiculous, but they should hold your business accountable. They should hold you as a sales leader or a business leader accountable to what your past performance was. They should be able to count things. Again, I know there's a lot of counts and rhymes with counts and accountability here, but they should be able to count these things, lay them out for you in readily digestible reports, and let you see how you're performing over time so that you can make informed decisions about what worked and maybe what didn't work. So they should be backwards looking thought assistants in that sense. They can't predict the future, and most good accountants will tell you that. They can tell you what your historical averages were and then draw lines and help you trend that. That's good, but that's them holding you accountable. Does that make sense? Secondly, they should help you identify those trends. And I've done this on the ops side. Some people, they think they have a bang up month. And I said, well, hang on, let's dial this back in. If you look at this in a 3-year window and just draw a real arrow there, let's put the arrow this way. Your arrow is actually going down. So accountants should be able to help you spot trends. And sometimes this market helps. Like disaster recovery is a good example. What if you found that chasing down all these individual homes was real choppy, it didn't get you a lot of business, it wasn't consistent, you don't have to do it. Well, what if they showed you that in the submarket of retainer accounts for commercial buildings, for example, you were actually going up year over year? Well, that's a trend that you want to pay attention to and then double your energies in that trend. Does that make sense? Also, they help you see things from different angles. And the best example of this is maybe looking at your quarter over quarter a year ago compared to just your year over year. So I actually was just helping a sales leader this last month, and the quarter seems down. But when we go look at the last 3 Q2s of the last 3 years, he's actually squeaking it out just a tiny bit over the quarter over quarter, year over year right there. So that's good. They'll present different pictures of the same data. But also, do you feel this feeling that it's still this feeling of neurosis in a good way? Like when you're sitting down with the finance team, you should be in a bit of a neurosis mindset. You just can't then go back to your leadership desk and start making all your leadership decisions from that micro analyzed financial perspective. And then the real big thing that an expensive CFO or a good CFO or VP of finance will do for you is he or she will find you money that you didn't know you had. So that manifests itself in things like net terms, or that manifests itself in things like expenses you didn't know you had anymore that you were just paying on ACH, etc. A good finance person will find you $50,000 and put it back into your business so you can send it to your, here we go, we're going back to the beginning, so you could send it to your product team so they can make more product or fulfill more service, or so you can send it to your go-to-market team, the sales side, so that they can get more leads, go to more events, and close more deals. Does that make sense? A good finance person should be a pain in someone else's neck, another company's neck, as they're beating them up for net 60 over net 30 or net 30 over net 10. And a good finance person should be buffering your money and kind of protecting that bank account and making sure all your receivables are coming in. So bringing you more money on a day-to-day basis. You built this business. You built this business because you're good at lead gen probably, or you're really good at the thing that you actually do on the product side. So get finance people working for your business because you have to have that accountability, but don't put them in the driver's seat. If you like this video, I want you to hit like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.